The fluorescent lights of examination room 3 hummed, cold and indifferent. A woman, Anna Walker, perched on the edge of the paper-lined table, her knuckles white where she gripped the side. Every breath was a painful, shallow hitch in her chest. She was in simple gray sweatpants and a university hoodie, clothes she'd thrown on in a desperate hurry. A sharp pain would make her wince, a small gasp escaping her lips. Just then, the door swung open. Dr. Evans entered, not with the gentle concern of a healer, but with the brisk, impatient air of a man running behind schedule. He scanned her chart, his lips a thin, dismissive line. He didn't bother to make eye contact. "All right, let's see," he said, his voice flat. Annalise Walker, 38. Chief complaint, abdominal pain and shortness of breath. He finally looked up, his eyes skimming over her with a detached, almost bored expression. "Been going on long?" Anna took a slow, careful breath. "The last few hours. It's getting worse. It's a sharp, stabbing pain right here," she said, pointing to her upper abdomen. "And it feels like I can't breathe. I've never felt anything like this." Dr. Evans gave a perfunctory nod. He picked up his stethoscope, the metal cool in his hand. "Probably just bad indigestion. Or maybe anxiety. We see a lot of that. People get worked up, and they can feel all sorts of things." He gestured for her to lean forward, his touch impersonal, almost rough, as he placed the stethoscope on her back. "Take a deep breath." Anna tried, but the pain shot through her, and she let out an involuntary cry. "I can't. It hurts too much." Dr. Evans sighed, a clear puff of irritation. "Right. Well, your vitals are stable. A little elevated, but that's consistent with an anxiety attack. I'm not seeing anything here that screams emergency." Anna shook her head, frustration mixing with the pain and fear. "It's not anxiety. I know what an anxiety attack feels like. This is different. This is physical. Can you please just run some tests? An ultrasound? A CT scan? Anything?" Dr. Evans actually let out a short, humorless laugh. He leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. "Ms. Walker, do you have any idea how much a CT scan costs? We don't just hand them out like candy because someone has a tummy ache. It's a massive dose of radiation. We need a clinical reason to order one, and frankly, a feeling isn't one." His tone was dripping with condescension. He saw a hysterical woman, and in his eyes, her blackness seemed to confirm his diagnosis of overreaction. A cold dread washed over Anna, colder than the pain itself. It was the all-too-familiar feeling of not being heard, of being dismissed before she'd even been examined. She'd been here before, different rooms, different doctors, same message: "Your pain isn't real." "Doctor," she said, her voice shaking but steady, "I'm not asking for candy. I'm telling you that something is seriously wrong. My mother had a history of aortic dissections. My aunt died from a pulmonary embolism. My symptoms line up with either one. I am asking you to take me seriously and rule out the worst-case scenarios." Dr. Evans's expression hardened. "Ah, the WebMD defense." He scoffed. "You've been on the internet, and now you've diagnosed yourself with a 1-in-a-million catastrophe. With all due respect, I've been practicing medicine for 25 years. I think I know the difference between a life-threatening condition and a panic attack." He walked over to a small desk and started scribbling on a prescription pad. "I'm writing you a prescription for a proton pump inhibitor. It's a strong antacid. And I'll give you a small dose of lorazepam for the anxiety. Take one when you feel this shortness of breath coming on. You'll feel better in no time." He tore the sheet off and held it out. It felt less like a prescription and more like a final insult. Anna looked from the paper to his impassive face. "No," she said, her voice quiet but firm. Dr. Evans raised an eyebrow. "No? What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I am not leaving with a prescription for antacids. I am in excruciating pain, I can't breathe, and you haven't done a single thing to investigate it beyond listening to my lungs for 10 seconds. I've done what's clinically indicated." He snapped, his patience gone. "You are being dramatic. It's this kind of behavior that clogs up emergency rooms and wastes valuable resources. There are people out there with real emergencies." The implication hung thick and toxic in the air. "You are not really sick. You are the problem." Anna's jaw tightened. She swung her legs off the table to stand, a wave of dizziness forcing her to grip the edge for support. "I want to see another doctor." Dr. Evans let out a derisive snort. I'm the attending physician on this floor. You see me. And I'm telling you, you're fine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual patients to attend to. And what am I? Anna challenged, her voice rising. Am I not an actual patient? Or is it that you took one look at me, a black woman in a hoodie, and decided I was just looking for drugs? Because you said anxiety, but your eyes screamed addict. The accusation hit its mark. A flash of anger crossed Dr. Evans's face. He dropped the pretense of professional detachment. I have not said anything of the sort. Your attitude is becoming disruptive. You can either take the prescription and go home, or I can have security escort you out. The choice is yours. My diagnosis stands. You are not in any immediate danger. He turned his back on her, a final, insulting gesture, and began washing his hands at the sink, as if to cleanse himself of their entire interaction. For a long moment, Anna just stood there, swaying. The pain was a roaring fire in her abdomen, and the doctor's words were salt in the wound. Every instinct screamed that this wasn't anxiety. This wasn't heartburn. His refusal, his complete dismissal, felt like a physical blow. She could leave. Go to another hospital and start this humiliating process all over again. But the thought of driving while this pain was cresting in waves felt impossible. And a more stubborn thought took root. Why should I be the one to leave? I'm not going anywhere, Anna said, her voice gaining a strength she didn't know she possessed. I will sit in this room until you either do your job or find me a doctor who will. Dr. Evans turned off the water, drying his hands with a furious, deliberate slowness. He faced her, his expression a thundercloud. I have had enough of this. You are refusing medical advice and becoming a nuisance. I am a doctor. I have made my professional judgment. Your professional judgment is clouded, Anna shot back. Clouded by whatever stereotypes you carry in your head. You didn't listen to a word I said. You heard abdominal pain, saw black woman, and filled in the blanks with your own bias. That is a ridiculous and slanderous accusation, he sputtered, his face turning blotchy red. I treat all my patients the same. Do you? Anna asked, her gaze unwavering. Do you tell your white patients with these symptoms they're just dramatic? Do you dismiss their family history without a second thought? Do you try to drug them for anxiety when they're telling you they're in severe physical pain? Just then, the door creaked open and a young nurse, Sarah, peeked her head in. She immediately saw the tension, the doctor's furious face and Anna, pale but resolute. Dr. Evans? Is everything all right? I heard shouting. Dr. Evans whirled around. Everything is fine, nurse. This patient was just leaving. He glared at Anna, a clear threat in his eyes. But the nurse's eyes were on Anna. She saw the sweat on her brow, the way she was clutching her side. Ma'am, are you okay? You look like you're in a lot of pain. Before Anna could answer, Dr. Evans stepped between them. I have already assessed her, nurse. It's a non-emergent situation. A bit of anxiety, that's all. I've written her a prescription. The nurse looked from the doctor's dismissive face back to Anna, and a flicker of doubt crossed her features. She was new and clearly intimidated by Dr. Evans, who was known for his temper. But she was also a nurse, and she could see genuine distress. Doctor, with respect, she began hesitantly. Her heart rate on intake was 120, and her blood pressure was elevated. Maybe we could run a basic blood panel? An EKG? Just to be safe. Dr. Evans turned the full force of his fury on her. Are you questioning my medical judgment, Sarah? Did you go to medical school? Did you complete a residency in emergency medicine? No? Then I suggest you stick to your duties and let me handle mine. This patient does not require any further testing. The nurse shrank back, her face flushing with embarrassment. No, sir. Of course not. She gave Anna one last, apologetic look before closing the door, leaving her alone with him once more. The brief glimmer of hope vanished. Dr. Evans smirked, a cruel, triumphant little smile. See? Now, as I was saying, it's time for you to leave. He reached for the phone on the wall. I'm calling security. Anna watched him, a strange calm settling over her. The pain was a hot knife twisting in her gut, but the fear had been replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She had been polite. She had been patient. She had been ignored, insulted, and threatened. And she was done. As Dr. Evans's finger hovered over the button to call security, Anna spoke. Her voice was suddenly devoid of any pleading or pain. It was clear, level, and held an authority that made him freeze. "Don't," she said. He turned, a sarcastic retort on his lips, but something in her eyes stopped him. The look of a frightened, dismissed patient was gone. In its place was the cool, appraising gaze of someone in complete control. "Don't bother calling security, Dr. Evans," she said, her use of his name precise and deliberate. "Robert Evans, MD from Johns Hopkins, class of 1999. You've been with this hospital system for 15 years. 2 complaints on your record for poor bedside manner, both settled internally. You prefer the ER night shift because, in your words, it has less administrative oversight. Am I getting that right?" Dr. Evans stared at her, his mouth slightly open. The color drained from his face. How do you know that?" Anna ignored him. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her movements were fluid, unhurried. With a few taps, she placed the call, her voice calm and professional. "Jessica, it's Annalise. Yes, I'm fine. Well, not entirely. I'm in examination room 3 at the downtown campus. Cancel my 2 o'clock board briefing. We have a more pressing matter. I need you to get David Chin, our chief of staff, and Maria Flores, the head of patient advocacy, to meet me here immediately. Tell them it's a code of conduct emergency." "Yes. Right now." She ended the call and placed the phone face down on the table. The silence in the room was absolute. Dr. Evans was frozen, a statue of dawning horror. David Chin and Maria Flores were the hospital's top brass. Code of conduct emergency was a term for the most serious internal crises. He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time. Not at the hoodie or the color of her skin, but at the woman standing before him. The woman who had just summoned the most powerful people in the building with a casual phone call. Who are you?" he whispered. Anna met his gaze, letting the full weight of his colossal mistake settle upon him. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but it landed with the force of a judgment. "My name," she said, "is Annalise Walker. My family's foundation was the primary benefactor for the construction of this wing. And 2 years ago, I was appointed chairperson of the board of directors." She took a small, deliberate step toward him. "You're not just standing in a hospital, Dr. Evans. You're standing in my hospital." The door burst open. A man in a sharp suit, David Chin, and a woman with a concerned expression, Maria Flores, hurried inside. They stopped short when they saw Anna. "Ms. Walker!" David exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Jessica said it was an emergency. Are you all right?" Maria Flores's eyes darted from Anna, still clutching her side, to Dr. Evans, who looked like he'd seen a ghost. Anna's voice remained unnervingly calm. "David. Maria. Thank you for coming. This is Dr. Robert Evans. He was just about to have me forcibly removed from the premises." David Chen's head whipped around to stare at Dr. Evans in disbelief. "He was what?" "Dr. Evans has diagnosed me with anxiety," Anna continued, her voice flat. "I informed him of my severe pain, my shortness of breath, and my family history of vascular conditions. I requested further testing to rule out anything life-threatening. He refused. He told me I was being dramatic and wasting resources, then decided to call security." A deathly pallor had overtaken Dr. Evans. He opened his mouth, but only a strangled squeak came out. I didn't know. She didn't say who she was." Anna looked at him with chilling emptiness. "Should it matter? Should a patient have to be the chairperson of the board to be believed? To be treated with dignity? To receive a basic standard of care?" David Chen's face was a mask of fury. "Dr. Evans," he said, his voice dangerously low, "hand me your badge. You are suspended, effective immediately, pending a full investigation. Go to your office, get your personal belongings, and you will be escorted from the building. Do you understand?" Dr. Evans fumbled with his badge, his hands shaking violently. He held it out, his eyes pleading with Anna. "Ms. Walker, please. I made a terrible mistake." "You weren't making a mistake, Dr. Evans," Anna said. "You were making a choice. You chose to ignore a patient in pain. You chose prejudice over protocol. The only mistake you think you made was doing it to me. I have to wonder, how many other women, how many other black patients, have you sent home with a pat on the head and a prescription for antacids? How many walked out of here, just like you told them to?" and never made it to another hospital. Dr. Evans had no answer. He just stared at the floor in shame as a security guard, summoned quietly by David, appeared at the door and gently led him away. As the door closed, the adrenaline fueling Anna faded, and the pain came rushing back. She stumbled, and David Chin caught her arm. "Ms. Walker, we need to get you admitted." "Now." Anna nodded weakly. She turned to Maria Flores. "Maria, I want a full audit of Dr. Evans's patient records for the last 5 years. Cross-reference his diagnoses with patient demographics. I want to see the pattern." "Of course, Ms. Walker," Maria said, already on her phone. Anna then looked to the doorway, where Nurse Sarah was hovering, her eyes wide. Anna gave her a faint, reassuring smile. "Nurse," she said, her voice softer now, "can you help me? I think I need that blood panel and EKG you mentioned. And let's get that CT scan scheduled. Just to be safe." As she was helped onto a gurney, a profound exhaustion settled over Anna. She had won. She got the care she needed. But it took a revelation of immense power to make it happen. And as she was wheeled down the hall, she was left with one haunting question: what happens to the people who can't make that revelation? The story of Annalise Walker gives us the kind of catharsis we crave. It's a neat little fantasy where the villain gets what's coming to him and the victim is vindicated. But in the real world, the villain isn't just one doctor. The real villain is a system. What Anna experienced wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a disease that infects our clinics, our hospitals, and our medical schools. This isn't a problem of a few bad apples. It's a crisis that providers themselves acknowledge. A 2024 report from the Commonwealth Fund and the African American Research Collaborative found that nearly half of all healthcare workers in the U.S. have personally witnessed discrimination against patients. More than half say racism against patients is a major problem in their own workplaces. This is a disease with real, measurable, and devastating consequences for the health and lives of Black Americans and other marginalized communities. To understand the depth of this, we have to look past individual stories and see the patterns. Racism in medicine isn't always a hateful act. It's often far more subtle, woven into clinical practice through something called implicit bias, unconscious stereotypes that affect our actions and decisions. And one of the most devastating ways this bias shows up is in pain management. For centuries, false, racist beliefs about biological differences between Black and white people have circulated in medicine. Myths that Black people have thicker skin or less sensitive nerve endings. These ideas have been completely debunked, yet their ghosts haunt our emergency rooms. Study after study shows that Black patients are consistently and systematically undertreated for pain compared to white patients with the exact same complaints. Their pain is more likely to be doubted and dismissed. This has a body count. Perhaps no story illustrates this more tragically than that of Dr. Susan Moore. In December of 2020, Dr. Moore, a Black physician, was hospitalized with a severe case of COVID-19. From her hospital bed, she recorded a video describing how her white doctor was dismissing her excruciating pain. She had to beg for pain medication. She had to beg for standard treatment. The doctor suggested she should just go home. In her video, Dr. Moore's voice is filled with anguish. "He made me feel like I was a drug addict," she said. "And he knew I was a physician." Her final, chilling words echo the fear of so many. "I put forth and I maintain, if I was white I wouldn't have to go through that. This is how Black people get killed. When you send them home, and they don't know how to fight for themselves." Dr. Moore advocated for herself relentlessly and was eventually transferred to another hospital. But it was too late. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. She died from complications of COVID-19 just 2 weeks after posting her video. An external review later found a clear lack of compassion and empathy, and a failure of her provider to address his own implicit biases. She had the knowledge and professional standing to fight for herself, and she was still ignored. The individual stories are powerful, but the scale of the problem becomes undeniable when you look at the data. The health disparities between Black and white Americans aren't small gaps. They are vast, gaping chasms. According to the CDC, the average life expectancy for a Black American is 72.8 years. For a white American, it's 77.5. That's a nearly 5-year difference. This isn't an accident of genetics. It's the result of systemic disadvantages. Black Americans suffer from chronic conditions at higher rates and have a mortality rate from cardiovascular disease that is 30% higher than white patients. This is driven by the fact that they are less likely to get the preventative, ambulatory care that could manage these conditions before they become life-threatening. Nowhere is this disparity more lethal than in maternal health. The United States has the worst maternal mortality rate among developed nations, and for Black women, the situation is a catastrophe. According to the latest data from the CDC for 2023, the maternal mortality rate for Black women was 50.3 deaths per 100,000 live births. For white women, that rate was 14.5. That means a Black woman is nearly 3.5 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than a white woman. And while the overall rate has declined, the gap for Black women has actually widened. This isn't about poverty or education. A college-educated Black mother is still more likely to suffer a severe maternal complication than a white mother who never finished high school. The problem isn't the patient, it's the system. So why does this keep happening? Because it's not just about individual attitudes. It's built into the very structure of American healthcare. For much of the 20th century, hospitals were legally segregated. The landmark 1963 court case Simpkins v. Moses H. Cone Memorial Hospital challenged this, but the legacy of that era persists. Today, that segregation looks different, but it's still here. It exists in the form of hospital closures in predominantly Black neighborhoods, creating medical deserts. It exists in the under-resourced safety net hospitals that serve a disproportionate number of minority patients. It also exists in the healthcare workforce itself. Black Americans are still significantly underrepresented in medicine, and that matters. Research shows that patients who share a racial background with their doctor report better communication and better outcomes. The lack of diversity in the medical field isn't just a social issue, it's a patient safety issue. These are what we call social determinants of health, the conditions where people are born, live, and work that affect their health. And for many Black Americans, those determinants are stacked against them from day one. Confronting a problem this deeply entrenched can feel hopeless. But it's not. Across the country, providers, activists, and policymakers are working to dismantle this discriminatory system. The first step is awareness. Things like implicit bias training are becoming more common in medical schools and hospitals to make providers aware of their own unconscious biases so they can actively work to counteract them. The next step is structural change. This means actively working to increase diversity in the healthcare workforce. It means investing resources equitably, so that hospitals and underserved communities have the funding and staff they need. It also means empowering patients by creating robust patient advocacy systems within hospitals, so patients have a formal channel to report mistreatment without needing to be the owner of the hospital. Ultimately, it requires a fundamental shift in the culture of medicine, a move away from a model where the doctor's word is law, and toward a partnership, where the patient's lived experience is seen as an essential piece of the diagnostic puzzle. The story we began with is compelling because it offers a fantasy of perfect, immediate accountability. It's a story where power dynamics are flipped in an instant, and a wrong is made right before our eyes. But the reality of medical racism doesn't offer such simple resolutions. The real story is the story of Dr. Susan Moore, who fought for her life and was ignored. It's the story of the Black mother who is over 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. It's the story of the Black man whose life expectancy is nearly 5 years shorter than his white neighbor. These are not stories with satisfying endings. They are ongoing tragedies fueled by a system still operating on centuries-old biases. Solving this won't be as quick or dramatic as a single, shocking reveal in an exam room. It will require a sustained, difficult effort from all of us. We have to demand accountability from our healthcare institutions. We have to advocate for policies that promote equity. And we must listen to and believe people when they tell us they are in pain. The fantasy is cathartic. Reality requires action. If you learned something from this video, please share it. Because the conversation about medical racism is one we all need to be having. Thank you for watching.